My name is Claudia Stone, and I'm 32 years old. For most of my adult life, I've been known by one title I never asked for: the responsible one. It wasn't something I chose, it was something that settled onto my shoulders so quietly, so naturally, that by the time I noticed the weight, it felt permanent, like gravity. I was the daughter my parents leaned on, the one they trusted, the one they never worried about. And because they never worried about me, they worried about everything else instead. Especially my younger sister. Emily Stone is 6 years younger than me, 26. But if you asked my parents, she was still a child who just needed time. Time to grow up, time to figure things out, time to recover from the many, many mistakes she made along the way. Time that always came at my expense. Emily had never held a job longer than a few months. She jumped from one idea to another: boutique assistant, yoga instructor, social media manager. Each one abandoned the moment it required discipline. She spent money the way some people spent air, assuming it would always be there when she needed it. Rent, credit cards, late fees, parking tickets. None of it ever seemed real to her, because it never really was. If Emily fell short, I was there. If she forgot a payment, I covered it. If she cried, I listened. And every single time, my parents would sigh and say the same thing. Claudia, you're older. You've always been strong. Emily's just sensitive. She'll grow up soon. Soon turned into years. I paid her rent when she just needed one more month. I wiped out her credit card debt when it got a little out of control. I paid her car insurance because she forgot, and because I knew what would happen if I didn't. Each time I told myself the same lie: this is the last time. And each time I believed it. My boyfriend, Ryan, used to watch me make excuses for her with this quiet, worried look in his eyes. He never pushed, never demanded. He just asked gently, "Are you sure this is fair to you?" I always brushed it off. Family was family. That was what I'd been taught. What I hadn't been taught was how to draw a line. The message that started everything came in on a Friday afternoon. I was still at work, half listening to a meeting I'd already mentally checked out of, when my phone buzzed on the table. "Hey, sis took your car for the weekend trip. You weren't using it anyway, right?" I stared at the screen. My car, the one I worked overtime for, the one I paid monthly installments on, the one Emily had never even asked to borrow before. I stepped out into the hallway and called her immediately. "What do you mean you took my car?" I asked, keeping my voice low but tight. She sighed, long and dramatic, like I was the inconvenience. "Relax, Claudia. It's just for the weekend. We're going up to the cabin." "I never said you could take it. You weren't home." "That doesn't mean—" "What's the big deal?" she interrupted. "You can survive a couple of days without it." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. The words I wanted to say piled up in my throat. "It's not yours. You don't get to decide. You don't respect anything that isn't handed to you." But before I could finish even one sentence, the line went dead. She'd hung up. I stood there in the hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, my heartbeat thudding louder than it should have. I thought about calling my parents. I even unlocked my phone, hovered over my mom's name. Then I heard her voice in my head. "It's just a car, Claudia. She's your sister. Why are you always so dramatic?" So I did what I always did. I swallowed it. That night, I barely slept. Every sound outside my apartment made my chest tighten. I kept imagining my car scratched, dented, ruined, and I hated myself for caring more about the car than the pattern it represented. The call came at 2:03 a.m. I jolted upright, heart racing, phone vibrating violently on the nightstand. "Claudia," Emily sobbed the moment I answered. I got into an accident." Everything inside me dropped. "Are you okay?" I asked, already swinging my legs out of bed. "I think so, but the car—" She inhaled sharply. "It's totaled." The word echoed in my head. Totaled. My car, my responsibility, my fault for letting it go. "The cops are here," she continued, voice shaking. "They're being so unfair. I need you to come. Just tell them everything's fine, okay?" There it was. The familiar request, wrapped in panic and entitlement. I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. No. Silence. "What?" she snapped. "I'm not lying for you, Emily." "You're serious?" Her voice rose instantly. "I'm your sister." "I know," I said quietly. "That's the problem." She exploded then, screaming, accusing, listing everything she believed I owed her. All the help I'd given her, twisted into proof that I was abandoning her now. "You're really going to let me deal with this alone?" she shrieked. "You stole my car," I said, my hands shaking. "You crashed it, and now you want me to take the blame." She laughed bitterly. Oh, please, it's just money. You can afford it. That sentence burned itself into my memory. I ended the call, and in that moment, I didn't feel guilt. I felt something far more dangerous: relief. I expected silence after I hung up on Emily. What I didn't expect was war. The next morning, my phone started buzzing before the sun was fully up. I didn't even have to look at the screen to know who it was. My mother had a very specific rhythm when she called, short bursts, back to back, like she was knocking on a locked door. I let it ring. Then came the texts. Mom, Claudia, what is wrong with you? Mom, your sister could have been killed. Dad, we need to talk, now. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my chest tight, but my mind strangely clear. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to rush in and fix things. I didn't feel panicked. I felt tired, bone deep tired. When I finally checked Emily's messages, they were exactly what I expected. They're blaming me. The cops are being so unfair. Mom says you're being heartless. I didn't reply. By noon, there was a knock on my apartment door. Hard, sharp, authoritative. I already knew who it was. My father stood there with his arms crossed, jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle twitching near his temple. He didn't bother greeting me. Get dressed, he said. We're going to the hospital. I almost laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it, a short, humorless sound. No, I said. His eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said no, I'm not going. He stepped closer, towering over me, the way he used to when I was a kid. Claudia, stop acting like a selfish brat. Your sister needs you. I folded my arms, mirroring his stance. You mean she needs my money? He didn't deny it, not even for a second. She's family, he snapped. You don't just turn your back on family. I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, more like a hairline fracture spreading through something I'd been carrying for years. Funny, I said slowly, how that rule only applies when I'm the one giving. His face hardened. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, I replied. You made this harder when you decided Emily's life was my responsibility instead of yours. She's your sister. She's your daughter. The words hung between us, heavy and undeniable. She has medical bills, he said, his voice sharper now. We can't afford this. There it was, the truth he'd been dancing around. I tilted my head, but I can. His silence confirmed it. That's what this is about, I said quietly. Not Emily, not family, money. His face flushed red. This is your last chance. Either you help or you're out of this family. Something inside me snapped completely then. I smiled, a real smile. Calm, clear. Dad, I said, I was never in this family. I was just the emergency fund you all guilted into keeping on standby. I stepped back and opened the door wider. Good luck. I closed the door in his face before he could respond. For 2 days, nothing happened. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips, no tearful apologies. I should have felt free. Instead, I felt uneasy. Emily wasn't the type to stay quiet when she didn't get her way. She didn't retreat. She escalated. On the third morning, the pounding on my door jolted me awake. Not frantic, not angry. Official. I opened the door to 2 police officers. Claudia Stone, one of them asked. Yes? We need to speak with you about a stolen vehicle report. My stomach dropped. Stolen? I repeated. My car? The vehicle registered in your name, the officer said carefully. Your sister reported that you took it without permission, crashed it, abandoned her, and threatened her. The world tilted. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd it barely felt real. That's a lie. They asked for proof. I had it. Emily's text. Time-stamped. Clear. Confessing she took my car without asking. At the station, they showed me her statement. Page after page of lies. And at the bottom, 2 signatures. My parents. They'd backed her story. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. Not shock. Acceptance. I want to press charges, I said calmly. She stole my car. I want to report it. The officer studied my face. You're sure? I'd never been more certain of anything in my life. By the time I got home, my phone was exploding. Mom, stop this right now. Dad, you're ruining your sister's life. Emily, you're dead to me. I stared at the screen, then set the phone down. For the first time, I didn't feel trapped. I felt powerful. By the time the sun went down that evening, my phone felt heavier than it ever had. Not because of the number of messages, but because of what they represented. Every vibration was another reminder that the people who were supposed to protect me had chosen someone else. Again. I muted the family group chat without opening it. I didn't need to read the words to know what they said. I could already hear my mother's voice, sharp with panic and accusation, and my father's rigid certainty that I was overreacting. Ryan came over that night without asking. He'd noticed my silence, the way I hadn't returned his calls. When I opened the door, he didn't say anything. He just pulled me into his arms and let me stand there, shaking, my forehead pressed against his chest. "They lied," I whispered. "All of them." He didn't ask who. He already knew. The next few days moved quickly, but my mind lagged behind, like it was struggling to catch up with reality. Officers called, statements were taken, evidence was reviewed. Emily's story unraveled faster than she expected. The text didn't lie. The timestamps didn't lie. And neither did the pattern. One of the officers told me quietly, "This isn't the first time your sister's made a false report." That detail hit harder than anything else. Not just because it meant Emily had done this before, but because it meant my parents knew. They had known. And they still signed their names at the bottom of her statement. When the charges were officially filed, vehicle theft and false reporting, I didn't feel triumph. I felt grief. Grief for the sister I kept hoping she'd become. Grief for the family I'd believed I was part of. Grief for the version of myself that thought love meant endurance. Emily didn't contact me at first. My parents did. "Drop the charges," my mother begged over voicemail, her voice breaking in all the right places. She didn't mean it. She was scared. My father's message was colder. "You're humiliating this family." I deleted both. On the fourth day, Emily finally called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "After everything I've been through, you're doing this to me? You've always hated me. Admit it." I listened once, then erased it. Later that afternoon, I received a call I wasn't expecting. "Ms. Stone, this is Dana Fields from Hamilton & Co., Emily's employer." My heart skipped. "Yes?" "Your name came up in a police report connected to an internal review," she said professionally. "Emily listed you as a character reference. We need to confirm whether she's currently involved in any legal matters." I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said evenly. "She's being charged with stealing my vehicle and filing a false police report." There was a pause. "I see," Dana replied. "Thank you for your honesty." The line went dead. 3 hours later, Emily started calling nonstop. First call, ignored. Second call, ignored. Third call, voicemail. "You ruined my life," she screamed. "They fired me. I can't believe you did this to me." I deleted it. The fourth call came just after 11 p.m. This time I answered. "What?" I asked. "You need to fix this," Emily demanded, her voice sharp and desperate. "Call them. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Fix what?" I said. "You lied. You stole. You blamed me. This is your mess." "I lost my job," she shouted. "I can't pay rent. How am I supposed to live?" I took a slow breath. Not my problem. She tried a different tactic then. Her voice softened, thick with fake remorse. "I didn't mean it," she said quietly. "Mom and Dad were freaking out. I was scared." "Don't bring them into this," I replied coldly. "They already made their choice." Silence stretched between us. Then, barely audible, she whispered, "Claudia, I don't have anyone else." There it was, the truth beneath every apology. Money, shelter, a safety net. "Welcome to reality," I said, and I hung up. That night, my parents came to my apartment together. My mother looked like she'd been crying for hours. My father looked furious. "You need to fix this," my mother said the moment I opened the door. "Fix what?" I asked calmly. "Emily lost everything because of you," my father snapped. "No," I corrected. "She lost everything because she lied to the police." "She was desperate," my mother said. "She made a mistake. She made a choice." "If you don't take her in," my mother pleaded, "she'll be homeless." I met her eyes. "No." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "You called me selfish," I continued. "You took her side, and now you want me to open my home to her?" My father shook his head. "Family forgives." "Not this time." I closed the door. 3 days passed after I shut the door on my parents. 3 quiet, unsettling days, where my phone stayed mercifully silent. No missed calls, no angry voicemails, no emotional ambushes waiting to explode. The stillness felt unnatural, like the calm after a storm when you're not sure whether it's over or just gathering strength. I threw myself into work to distract my mind, staying late at the office, coming home exhausted, letting routine dull the edges of everything I didn't want to feel. Ryan noticed, of course. He always did. "You don't have to carry this alone," he said one night as we sat on my couch, the TV playing something neither of us was watching. "I know," I replied, even though part of me still felt like asking for help was a kind of failure. That belief ran deep, planted years ago, nurtured by expectation. On the 4th day, Emily texted, "I'm leaving town." I stared at the message for a long time before opening the next one. You ruined everything. I hope you can live with yourself. I didn't reply. I thought I'd feel relief reading those words. Closure, maybe. Instead, a hollow ache spread through my chest. I hadn't wanted to destroy her life. I'd wanted her to take responsibility for it. That night, I packed a suitcase. Not because I was running, but because I was ready for something new. 2 weeks later, I accepted a transfer to our company's branch in another city. A clean break, a fresh start. The day I moved, my parents didn't call. Emily didn't reach out. The silence felt permanent this time. For a while, I convinced myself that was enough. Then, one evening, as I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment, there was a knock on the door. I froze. Some instincts never leave you. I opened it slowly. Emily stood there. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes rimmed red and hollow. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of the confidence she wore like armor. "Claudia," she whispered, "I have nowhere else to go." Years of resentment surged up so fast it took my breath away. "You tried to get me arrested," I said quietly. "I know," she murmured. "I was scared." "I gave you chances," I replied, "over and over again. What have you ever done for me?" She trembled. "I thought we were family." I met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "A real family wouldn't do what you did to me." She started crying then, real tears, not the performative kind. "Please," she begged, "I'll change." I believed that she believed it, and that was the problem. "I hope you figure things out," I said gently, "but I can't be in your life anymore." I closed the door. I leaned my forehead against it for a long moment, letting the grief wash through me. Then I straightened and walked back into my apartment. For the first time, it was quiet. Not empty. Peaceful. 2 months passed. No calls from my parents. No messages from Emily. No surprise guilt trips. No late-night apologies. No demands disguised as concern. The silence settled into my life slowly, like dust after a long demolition. Unavoidable, but honest. At first, I didn't trust it. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Another accusation. Another emergency. Another moment where I'd be expected to abandon myself for the sake of someone else's chaos. But it never came. Instead, something else did. Space. In my new city, I started waking up without dread tightening my chest. I walked to work in the mornings without checking my phone every 5 minutes. I cooked dinners without interruption. I laughed more easily. I slept through the night. Ryan noticed before I did. "You're lighter," he said one evening as we sat on the balcony of my apartment, the city humming below us. "Like you finally put something down." I thought about that for a long moment. "I think I did," I said. "I just didn't realize how heavy it was until I stopped carrying it." There were nights, of course, when the memories came back. When I thought about Emily as a kid, how she used to follow me around, how I used to braid her hair, how fiercely I once wanted to protect her. I grieved that version of us. I grieved the sister I kept hoping would reappear if I just tried hard enough. But grief wasn't the same as regret. I didn't regret saying no. I didn't regret the charges. I didn't regret closing the door. What I regretted, if anything, was how long it took me to choose myself. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. I knew who it was from before I opened it. Emily. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was messy, defensive, scattered, full of half-acknowledgments and justifications. But buried between the lines was something real. She was scared. She was angry. And for the first time, she wasn't asking me for money. She was just gone. I folded the letter and put it away. My parents never reached out again. I heard through a distant relative that they were still furious, still telling their version of the story. I let them. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. I'd already lived the truth. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty, if I feel cruel, if I think I went too far. I tell them this: loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. And family, real family, doesn't ask you to bleed just to prove your loyalty. I didn't walk away because I hated my sister. I walked away because I finally loved myself enough to stop disappearing. Choosing myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. And for the first time in my life, that choice brought me peace.